I think all of us at some level wrestle with this need to know that our lives matter and that what we do with ourselves and with our gifts are important. And that's a really good thing. That's part of what drives, I think, humanity to progress and do our thing, especially here in the West in America. But one of the negative impacts that we're seeing in the modern world today, I think, is that it makes us incredibly busy people. We're very busy, even through a pandemic, strangely enough. Like, I rarely meet someone, and I'm a pastor, so I see people on a regular basis, and I rarely meet them, and they say, man, Fredo, I'm bored. Like, I got nothing to do. Like, generally I get these two generic surface level answers. I'm good, and I'm busy. I'm doing a lot. You should see what I'm doing. And we haven't really taken into account what busyness is doing to us. Because I think what's happening is our lives are less like a rhythm, and they're more just like a sporadic, we're just kind of dealing with whatever hits us next. And so our weeks feel like this kind of chaotic spin of just Monday through Friday, just got to get through this, got to get through that, got to meet this person, got to go for drinks, got to work out, got to get online, got to post my stuff, maybe I got to go to church, right? And we just have all of these things that we try to cram into this period of time that we call the week, Monday through Sunday. And what has left most of us is this sense of rest, a sense of I can breathe, a sense of understanding who I am beyond just what I do or what others might say about me. And it's interesting enough that the scriptures, the Bible, the library of scripture begins with this book called Genesis, in which we see the very first week being created. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then Moses, the author, presses it further and says that at the very beginning, when God speaks everything to existence, there was darkness, emptiness, and a kind of deepness to the seas, to the oceans. And so really what we're seeing there poetically is that the world that first came about wasn't necessarily inhabitable. But God does something. He continues to work. He brings life and order out of this chaos, out of the darkness and out of the depth. And there is a desire, I think, in all of us to also see that in our own lives, to bring order out of chaos. Some of you who are raising young children, right? Your desire is to bring order out of the chaos of young kids who don't know how to listen or how to act right? You got to get them in line. People who love to cook, you bring the messiness and the raw ingredients of all kinds of things, and chaotically in the kitchen over time, you bring order and you bring something delicious to the table for us to enjoy. If you scroll through TikTok or Instagram, right, people love to make videos of their before and afters, of their garage, of their pantry, of their bedroom, of their backyard. We love to see renovation. We love to see something that is messy, broken, out of order, chaotic, be brought into cleanliness, structure, and beauty. There's something about that that just drives us, and we say, yes, I want to do that. And my suggestion to you is that we do that because we're made in the image of God. We're made in the image of a God who brings order out of chaos. And he does so with this kind of rhythm. Scripture says it happens in 6 days, where God creates the earth and then he fills it with creatures. Then on the 6th day, he creates the human race, Adam and Eve. And uniquely enough, it's after that moment where he says, this is very good. And on the 7th day, God rests. God rests. He just enjoys it. He enjoys what he has made. And my suggestion and my understanding is that the entire universe has this kind of rhythm to it. And our weeks, our lives should have this kind of rhythm to it, in which we work, we pour ourselves out, we labor, we do good work, we do hard work, we work through the difficulties and the challenges of life, but then we take a moment to rest. We take a moment to rediscover who we actually are and enjoy the world, enjoy God the way that he enjoyed it on the 7th day of creation. You can think of this as a moment of sacred space, where there's an opportunity for you to rest, to breathe, for you to worship your Creator, the one who made you and loved you, and also to delight in the things that he made, to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor. Now, the challenge for, I think, a lot of us is to still be convinced that we need this kind of rest. You see, we're not fully on board yet that, man, people actually know how to drain us. Like, we have an overestimated view of how much we can actually pour out. And that leads us to be burnt out because we try to give something away that we don't actually possess yet. We're in burnout mode most of the time. And so I would argue and suggest to you that you actually need this. You need sacred space in your life Because imagine all the things that you do that you feel great about over the course of the week, and maybe all the things that you do that you don't feel great about. And yet at the same time, you still have to come to the end of the week and make a decision. Will I continue to press on, or am I going to pause? Am I going to stop? And I love that God, who made the Milky Way, Andromeda, black holes, exploding stars, creatures, microorganisms, sharks and swamps, and you and I, he knows how to step back and just let it be. And you got to be able to do that too, so that you can be refreshed in the way that God was refreshed. You can rediscover who you are. You see, one thing we forget about the creation story is that Moses was penning this to a group of people, the Israelites, who for 400 years before this only knew slavery. In other words, they worked every single day of their lives, never a day off. They made bricks for Pharaoh, and they were pretty much defined by their productivity. You are what you make. They never had this. They never had a day of rest, right? And so Moses is writing to this people group, telling them, man, you are no longer slaves, and this is how God desired and designed you to live. We should align ourselves with this kind of rhythm of life, because trying to go against this built-in way of living is going to lead you only to more destruction, more burnout, more loss. And trying to break this rhythm of rest is like trying to break the law of gravity. You can't do it. You at first might think you can, but there are consequences. You cannot safely, consistently avoid rest and sacred space. You need it. You need to discover who you are. And I think one of the ways that you can discover this is, yes, by stopping what you do and enjoying what you've done and be with God and do things that fill you up and give you life again. But another crucial way that we do this as Christians who are following Jesus is we gather together. We're a part of a local assembly in which, particularly on the Sabbath day, on the last day of the week, really the first day of the week, we come together and we enjoy each other, we worship and we sing to God. And I realize that in 2022, that sounds a bit suspicious. Because even if you're at the point where you think, yeah, sacred space is something I need, you might still be curious on whether or not there actually is genuine sacred space to be found. And I say that mainly because the church, for a lot of reasons, has proved itself to be hypocritical. You probably have experienced, maybe even in your own life, leaders who don't live up to what they preached, people who maybe verbally abused you or harmed you, or did even worse in their position of power, right? And so there's a lot of suspicion and even animosity towards the church because of the abuse and the scandals that we've seen. And I'm sorry if that's been the case for you. And I want to suggest to you that, man, the place where you got hurt doesn't necessarily have to be the place where you go, but you can eventually find yourself to also be healed in the church as well. I think about the life of Jesus. He was somebody who was a man of routine. Scripture says in the Gospels that he would regularly go to synagogue. As it was his custom is a phrase you find all over the place. And what's ironic about Jesus is he criticized the synagogue and the church of his day all the time, but it still never kept him from going to it. He still found himself in the synagogue, worshiping, hearing Scripture, teaching from Scripture. And so there's something still to be said, even in this digital world that we live in, where you can get all the content you want without the institution of the church that you really need. And I want to suggest to you, if you're taking an honest look at Jesus, you'll see in his life that he invites you to find sacred space in him and with his people. And so my hope for you would be that you would rediscover who you are as you stop and you rest and you experience the life that God has designed for you. But you do so in the way of Jesus. You do so in the way that he did it as well. It's one thing to hear spiritual truth. It's another thing to have it embodied in your life and with those around you. And so, man, may you find yourself restful. May you experience the life that God has designed you to live. In the same way that God was refreshed as he rested, this could be true for you too. And I'll leave you just with this last thought. Man and woman, Adam and Eve, were created on day 6, which means their very first full day of life was day 7. It was a day of rest. Think about that. We weren't created so that we would just work and then rest, but we were actually created first to rest. In other words, imagine your life not as one that you're trying to reach the finish goal, but one in which you're already at the finish line, and everything else you get to give out is just free money. It's enjoyment. you've already accomplished it. We can live from a place of rest and not just for that place. And so my hope is that you would find sacred space with Christ and with his people. Grace and peace.